The German government refuses to stop funding Putin, and we have more evidence from Hunter Biden's laptop that could destroy his father's presidency. Welcome to Disrupt. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ukraine Brief, where we disrupt the narrative of the mainstream media. It's Monday, the 18th of April. This is the show where we go behind the scenes from what you either have not been hearing in the mainstream media, or you might have heard it, but with a bit of a weird, biased spin. We have our own leanings, but we are very open about it. We give you the reports, the facts, and then I add my opinions, and you can make up and form your own views. This is the show we're going to be talking about Germany, their relationship with Russian gas, their addiction to Russian oil and gas, but also Hunter Biden's laptop that's been found. And we got more evidence, text messages and emails that could get Joe Biden into a lot of trouble. And we're also going to finally talk about the backlash over the Rwanda plan, because clearly the political left have a bit of a problem with Rwanda. I think that's called being bigoted, but we'll see in this show. First, let's talk about Germany. Yes, the German government, who until now have had a massive addiction to Russian oil and gas. The same Germany who were warned by President Donald J. Trump a few years ago, when Trump was president. He warned them, saying, guys, you're way too dependent on Putin's gas. It's a bad idea. They just laughed at him. Now, guess what they've said? The German government, the whole of establishment, including the parliament, have come out to say, oh, yes, the whole of the NATO and all the allies in the world are telling us we should really stop buying from Putin. We should do an embargo. We should basically go with alternative energy sources. Guess what they said? No. They said, no, we're not going to do it. We can't. Now, their justification is that I can stop whenever I want. I'm definitely not addicted. I don't need an intervention. But I know there are options. But just give me some time. I'll know when to stop. They've had, not just years, but right now, they've had weeks since the Ukraine conflict started to come up with some sort of alternative plan. They haven't even thought about a plan. Now, any opposition, that other parties that keep coming out to propose new energy sources, including going back to embrace nuclear. No. That's never going to happen. Because the centrist establishment types, the people who are so arrogant. And again, this is the new globalist agenda that's going around the whole world, from Justin Trudeau's government to Jacinda Ardern's, and even our own Downing Street, that the whole of the Whitehall establishment. They are so arrogant that they think they can only run the country and run the world. And now on a global scale, you have the WF, the World Economic Forum, and those guys who think that the only way to fix the problems of the world is if you trust us. I will sit in a room and we'll centralize economic policies, we'll centralize social policies, and we'll just open all the borders. And one day we will have our Star Trek utopia. Not going to happen. It will be a massive dystopia. Now, speaking of dystopias, the White House, Washington, D.C., and this guy, oh dear God. Okay. I massively apologize to all the families watching this right now, looking at the Hunter Biden's photo. But Hunter Biden is in more trouble. And we talked about this in the last few episodes, where even CNN have abandoned the Biden administration very subtly on this issue, at least, because they used to just completely shut down any updates on this scandal, Hunter Biden dodgy dealings in China, in Ukraine, and across the globe. They used to say it's just fake news. It's Russian disinformation. Now CNN are talking about it. It's reached a whole new level because they know it's time to jump ships from the Biden's Titanic. So the new evidence we have is from his laptop that's been found, Hunter, is that a lot of text messages and emails proving that Joe Biden himself, the father and president of the country, has actually potentially benefited financially from Hunter Biden's dodgy dealings. It said one of the text messages, Hunter sent it to his daughter, Naomi, saying, I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. Wow, that's a bit sassy. It depends how you read it, by the way. And he continues by saying, it's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Oof. It's turning into Family Feud at this point. But the whole issue is that we got another email from one of these, of course, like the lawyers and the accountants and all the other minions who've been doing all this dirty work. It said, one of the emails, your dad, Joe Biden, just called me about his mortgage and mentioned that he'd be out a lot soon and not really back until Labor Day. Cool. He could use some positive news about his future earnings potential. And that's their massive mansion in Delaware. Okay, so clearly there is a link. Allegedly, right? We have to say that for legal reasons. Potentially links between Hunter Biden's business dealings and Joe Biden's money-making machine. What is this obsession with the certain political class, especially particularly in America, with ultra greed? You were already greedy enough to make all the money and become successful, and I'm very much pro-capitalism. But then why? You already have it. You reach a new level of greed, that you're already powerful and you have a lot of money, then you keep going. And then eventually you're going to get caught. Eventually you're going to cross the line. And this is the problem that we're dealing with. Now, speaking of greedy people, let's talk about this guy. Yeah. Gremlin Tony Blair. He has actually cut his hair now. This is from a year ago, this photo. He's come out again to contribute to the debate around the Ukraine conflict. Because as I advised him a month ago, and clearly Tony Blair listened to me, I did say when the whole thing started, I said, for the love of God and for the safety of world peace, keep Tony Blair in his box. Do not let him out. Because if he comes on TV to talk about Ukraine, he's going to say it. You know what he's going to say. He's obsessed with just foot on the ground. Just get in there. And yes, he did it. Yesterday, a couple of days ago, he came out and he briefed the media and press saying, I have a solution, guys. I don't know if anyone's thought about this, but Putin, let's just go in and take over. Conquer Russia. Yes, well done, Tony. Well done, Tony. That's the only way we could fix this conflict, to just completely go in and take over Russia. Initially, basically go and wipe out the soldiers in Ukraine, and then continue the mission and the campaign. It's embarrassing. These are the people. Tony Blair is a man who created a massive problem in this country. There's a lot of issues, of course, economic policies, social policies, but on a cultural level, what he did in terms of undermining us on the international stage after Iraq and Afghanistan, not only that, then you open the doors. Open door policy, migration, mass migration. It could cause a lot of trouble. And now, not only we can't fully close the door anymore, right now we have a solution, a semi-solution to at least not stop the boats, but when the boats come, to at least transfer them to Rwanda to be processed. And it will over time, of course, discourage that behavior, so that you can't really just come in and get Domino's pizzas and get Serco to send you to a 4-star hotel in Kent. It will stop that, and I'm very much in favor of that, and they're changing that policy. But they are now having a meltdown. The backlash continues, as we've been talking about on this channel. I've got Peter Barnes on the line. I'm going to go to Peter Barnes to ask him about this backlash, weird backlash, which is no longer against the policy. It's becoming very quite bigoted against Rwanda as a country, because clearly, in the eyes of the political left, Rwanda and all the other African nations are all the same. Peter Barnes, what do you think?
Well, I think what's important to remember is that this policy isn't supposed to be a kind of cure-all. It's supposed to be part of a bigger strategy that, as the government is putting into place, about, say, handing over control of this to the Navy, which is quite a big, significant move. You know, we've already introduced laws about increased sentences for people smuggling, and you know, it's not supposed to be this one policy is supposed to stop all migrant crossings, which is how it's kind of being argued against, and it's so dishonest. I watched most of the media coverage for this like over Easter. I'm currently at my parents' house, so you know, I'm kind of out of the bubble a little bit, but you know, I've been watching most of it, and I'm like, oh, come on, you know, it's just not honest the way that this is being argued by its opponents. And I thought Priti Patel, when she came out today and said, well, all the critics just don't have any kind of other alternative plan. They have no solution. They're just, as Boris Johnson knows, his favourite line is just carping on the sidelines. They're not doing anything. Yeah. You know, and let's not forget that Labour as well have voted routinely against increased measures to stop the migrant boat crossing. And, Yvette Cooper, she's blocked the borders bill so often now. You're kind of wondering whether it's actually ever going to get into force. I have to admit, it's not a perfect policy in any way, shape, or form. But
It's something.
it's something, and it's something that's needed more now than ever. I think Boris is right. The people voted to take back control of our borders, and this is one way that we're doing it. We are going to get a lot of lawsuits from what they call lefty do-gooders, and all that as they're called. But I do think this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they've chosen Rwanda. I would like to know how that came about.
Yeah.
I have to admit, but I'm not as opposed to it as most other people seem to be.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a place where, well, not only is more manageable from our perspective as an ally, but also they're not too fussed with the kind of illegal migrants just running around, because they actually need more migrants anyway.
Yeah.
But the issue with the Labour Party is that you kind of pointed out that they come out and say, hey, this policy won't really stop the boats. That makes them sound like, oh, they really want to stop the boats, but they don't really want to stop the boats. They don't really have an option, do they? Any alternative plan?
No, they don't, because unfortunately the Labour Party are trapped yet again between this kind of two sides of the people that they need to vote for them, that want the boat stopped, and the people that just want to open their arms to the rest of the world and the rest of the world's problems. They're stuck in this awkward situation, which is all of their own making, by the way. I have no sympathy for them at all. This is all their own fault. And it's about time the Labour Party were honest and actually came out and said, well, fair enough, if you don't like the Rwanda policy, tell us what you're going to do. And this is what I expect the Conservatives' line to be on this all the way through, because so far I've gone through most of the media coverage, I've gone through all of Labour Party's statements on this, and I haven't seen anything about what they would do. And this is and I think Priti Patel's attack today is the start of this. And one thing it's nice to see is the Conservatives going out and actually on the attack. For once. They've actually, finally going out and saying, well, wait a minute, fair enough, you might not like this policy, but tell us what you're going to do.
Thank you. That was our political editor, Peter Barnes. And now it's time to go to our final segment, your comments. Each episode of Disrupt, at the end of it, we go to the most popular and most liked comments from the previous show, previous episode of Disrupt. Last time we were talking about the Communist Party in China and the backlash in Shanghai and all the protests. So we have a lot of comments regarding all that. So first, we have Where There Is Love. That's the name of the account. Love that. Saying people around the world, all over the world, are seeing their ugly leaders for the demons they are. Let's hope this grows and grows and grows. Everyone deserves to see the truth. Now, I fully agree. And it really depends on what we, as little people, actually do about it. Because we could either kind of like rely on our current political system and just wish for the best, wait for center-left or center-right parties to just take over and have stability. How did that go? We've seen the 2000s, we've seen the 2010s, and now we've got the 2020s. Absolute chaos. Maybe, and the political system are now too afraid of radicalism because it's a bad word. But we need radicalism. We need some vision in our blood. Now, next one is Sydney, which is supposed to be Sydney, saying, stupid as stupid does, starving people and animals and driving them mad at the same time can never end well. This is a response to the CCP's clampdown on Shanghai protesters, because, as I always say, there is a big problem with when you obey the system, authoritarianism, like the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing. They can only do it when people are actually obeying. When people become desperate, they haven't been practicing. The CCP in China, it's been years and decades since the last time they had to stop a potential revolution. So they're kind of out of practice. And that's why they can't really handle what's going on in Shanghai, and they're losing the battle. James Thompson said, the CCP has an even bigger problem. Shanghai, there are about 20 million of them, and it's a cosmopolitan city. Once you dictate how people should live and lock down virtually the whole city and not provide food and destroy their pets, you have lost them. The trust is gone. Now, the reason James is spot on is not just because of what Sydney said earlier, as well in the previous comment about the trust is gone, and when people are hungry, they become desperate. It's what James said. It's the size of the city. It's a huge chunk of China. Now, obviously, a chunk of China, because of course they're everywhere, the Chinese population. But if in terms of the important key kind of hubs of China as a country and on a governmental level, if you essentially anger the Shanghai metropolitan kind of educated middle classes, you're going to wake up the others. You're going to wake up the poor and the working class and everybody else, all the different classes. And it's going to be quite difficult to manage. I'm not claiming that there's going to be some sort of revolution tomorrow, no. But it starts with undermining the whole agenda. And then maybe we'll see if we could do a similar thing on a whole different level in the West before it gets to that point. Because there is an agenda on a globalist level, and we are fighting against it on this channel, thanks to your support. And I do have some big updates coming up soon when it comes to the fighting against globalism. So if you stick with me and continue your support, then I will give you some announcements very, very soon about what we have in mind as a campaign in this country. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Thanks for all the support. Don't forget to leave comments to see which one's going to be the most popular comments for the next episode of the Ukraine Brief. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tousi, and this was Disrupt.